Hello everyone, this is Melanie from Melanie B's Creative Studio and Creative Supplies, and today Wizardi is sponsoring this video with a paint by number kit that I'm so excited about because the paints that are included have become the hottest topic on my Facebook group. They have metallic paints in this kit. Now they're not all metallic, but I'm learning that that is what makes the metallic paint by number kits so amazing, is the combination of some metallic paints with non-metallic paints. Metallic paint by number kits are not easy to find right now. This was so exciting to me when they introduced their metallic paint by number kits. And the company is Ideyka, which is a Ukrainian company, and I've brought to you one of their kits before, which was the round one. And so I'm very pleased to bring you another one of their kits, and it just so happens to have metallic paints. So I went ahead and got everything out of its cellophane packaging so that it wouldn't have all the glare. I've already taken the paints out of its vacuum sealed packaging as well, so that you could see the colors in this kit. This is the design, and I'm also going to include a pop-up version of this so that you can see it without the glare. And yes, it is stunning with its combination of those shades of blue with that gold. In this particular kit, only 3 of the paints have the metallic or that shimmer to them, but that to me is what's going to be so eye-catching. And I am going to show you the swatch for this kit in just a minute. We're just going to take a quick look at the contents. We'll take a look at the canvas, and then I'm going to show you the paints. So this is a framed canvas, which means it's on a stretcher bar. It is a thinner stretch paint by number, which I like personally. It is about 1/2 inch, so it's not super thick. They've given us an instruction brochure, and this is just a QR code that will send you to their Instagram. They've included 3 plastic brushes in 2 rounds and 1 flat. This particular kit has 18 colors plus 2 additional of number 2 and number 5. Then we also have our reference guide, which, as we know, is super handy. And then, of course, I've got this turned in a landscape format, but it is actually a portrait formatted design. I'm just going to keep it this way for camera purposes. And let's zoom in a little bit on some of the smaller details here. The lines on this canvas are a thin black, and the numbers are also black, but they're not a bold black. And I know I've kind of discussed this in the past, so I think that is a really good thing. They're very easy to read, but yet they're not so dark that we cannot easily cover them. I can tell by the texture that it does feel like they're using a high quality pre-primed with white gesso type of canvas, but that does not mean that for those of us who are the people who use clear gesso, that we wouldn't want to use clear gesso before we paint. As I was showing you before, this color palette is absolutely gorgeous. And I love a cool palette like this with all these shades of blue, but these beautiful golds in here are just fabulous. Now, I do want to mention, and when you look at the swatch, you're going to be able to see it. This number 1 is extremely transparent. Transparent to the point of how will that ever cover? So what I have planned to do with mine is use my whipped cream, which is my perfect paint, to put down a layer first on my cells that have number 1, because this is a very opaque white. And I'm going to put a really thin layer of this paint wherever number 1 is. And I'm just going to show you here on the swatch. And I want to make sure it dries 100% before I go back and put anything over it. And white is always the last number I do, no matter what, because otherwise you can't tell where you've been. If you do white first, it is so hard to tell the outlines of the cell that has white in it. So I always say white for last on my paint by number kit. I also want to show you the difference. If I add a little clear gesso here to these cells, how those metallics will cover with and without Liquitex clear gesso. So I'm just going to take a little bit of clear gesso and apply it with my squeegee. Really use hardly any at all. And I'll go dry this with a blow dryer really fast so that we can move on with this little demonstration. So let's take a look at the swatch first. And that way you'll be able to see the difference without the clear gesso and with the clear gesso to see how the metallics are going to be affected if you apply the clear gesso. So you can see number one is very transparent. So I'm hoping that once I add it over this white, that it will no longer have a problem. Number two is translucent. Number three is almost completely opaque. So a second coat of that color would be fine. And then the rest of these paints are really beautiful. This one right here is maybe a little translucent, but I did get a very thin layer. I had not let that white dry long enough. And so I'm gonna add my white and my clear gesso together and get a toothy white to put down before I add that pearl on top. Because I wanna test that since I'm gonna have to redo that area. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of my white and a little bit of clear gesso.
And before you ask, no, this isn't the same as using white gesso because white gesso doesn't have this gritty tooth to it, but this will.
Now I'm going to let that completely dry before I put number one over the top and test it. And now that it's got white plus clear gesso in it, I want to see how it's going to grip that paint and make it as opaque as possible, but still give us this beautiful shimmer. I am going to go ahead and do number two and number three over these two that just have the clear gesso. And let's see if it makes a difference in coverage. I know I had discussed in the past Ideyka video that the paint pots are backward. So somebody had mentioned that if you hold them this way and open them, that it's a little more comfortable. What I've learned is if you take one of my stainless steel stirring sticks with a flat end on it, I usually cut my paint pots apart, so this is a little bit easier. But then I just use it sideways and pop it open. And that gives my fingers a rest. I don't pop it all the way because I don't want it to go like spilling out everywhere, but I give it enough to loosen it to where I can open it. Isn't that beautiful? So pretty. But anything that's shimmery or sparkly just screams my name. So I'm gonna put this down in here to make sure that they're commingled. So beautiful. Oh yes. I don't know why when I'm doing these swatches, I just like, I'm not putting more layers down. I just like making it smooth. And so I'll go over it like 40 times. That made such a difference. Oh, it's so beautiful. So let's go in with number three. I'm going to stir it up real fast. Watch it shimmer, see it glimmer. Ooh, it's pretty gold metallic paint. Okay, one thing I also like to do when I'm working with metallics is I go one direction and then I go the other direction. It's almost like when you're doing carpet and it has a direction that it looks better. And that's almost the way these metallic paints are. The pigment will show up better in one direction or the other. And so if you go in both directions, you'll be able to see which way the pigment shows up best. It's like a surprise. So I don't know if you can tell with my lighting, but this coverage is much better than that coverage, but it's fabulous. All right, so this one I think may be the best one to be able to tell with, and let's try that. I've already stirred it. And it looks so white, doesn't it? It's just a facade. And I'm not going to overwork it. I'm just going to put down some. So let's see if you can see the shimmer. And it might need a little bit more, actually. that one has, it's almost like a gold interference color. And I hope that you can see that over the white, it gave it opacity, but it's still got its interference. And I'm going to let it dry completely so you can tell the difference between the wet paint and its interference color. So let me allow that to dry. In the meantime, I'm going to add clear gesso to my canvas so that we can paint a little bit on the canvas itself and see how it looks. So I'll be back. I've allowed my canvas to completely dry for a couple of days. You can speed along the gesso drying process with a blow dryer on high on a cool to warm setting, and you can start painting on your canvas within 30 minutes if you want to expedite that process, which is what I usually do. You just want to make sure that your surface is dry completely to the touch. You can hit the back of the canvas with the blow dryer, but you can also hit the front. If you feel like it's cool, then it is not completely cured and you don't want to start putting paint on it yet. Of course, your best bet is to always allow it to dry naturally, but it is okay to go ahead and expedite it. I know we are not the most patient people in the world. We want instant gratification, which is part of the reason we do paint by number. So what I wanted to do is paint on the canvas itself. I'm going to paint with number 2 and number 3, which are the metallics. And I want to give you a couple of tips about what I've found to give me the best coverage when I'm painting with the metallics. Although these paint pots come in a strip, I like to cut them apart. That's just for my personal use, and put them in one of the foam paint pot holders that I sell at my shop, or even in one of the photo cases that I've shown in past videos. It just allows me to control and handle the paint a little bit better. The first thing, besides putting down gesso, which is tip number 1 for working with the metallic paints, is I want to not open this over my canvas because they are very fluid paints. I want to make sure I am stirring and stirring and stirring before I start using the metallic paints. Stir from the bottom, and I use a stainless steel stirring stick because sometimes the toothpick or something that flimsy and small won't really get in there and get all of the pigment mixed up with the medium. And so I like to make sure I'm giving it a really good stir. Of course, I'm not going to waste any of this paint. Whatever I can't get off of the stirring stick, I will use with my brush to remove, which I did get it off there. So I'm using my custom Melanie Bees number 2 flat brush for the moment, and I will let you know if I switch to a smaller size, which I probably will maybe in here. Sometimes I just use this on its chisel point and I can get into small areas, which is why I love the flat brushes. I paint everything with flat brushes. Let's get started painting. I'm going to go in with my 0 flat brush. You can see it has a beautiful tapered point on it, which is absolutely perfect for getting into smaller areas, but not super tiny. All right, so I'm going to stir up number 3, which is this really beautiful gold. I'm going back in with my number 2 flat brush. Ooh, now this is gorgeous. Another thing you might notice while I'm painting, I cover the line with whichever color I'm painting with. Otherwise, you will get what my art professor called a fear space. You may notice that your paints seem to shrink when they dry, and you'll notice a white little halo around some of the paint. And so it's because you're kind of afraid to get up on top of the line or on top of the paint next to it. And so it's drying with a little white halo around the color. So I'm going to get right up on the color beside the paint, number 2 here. And even though it's got a little thicker section right there, I'll smooth it out. But I don't hesitate to get right up on that line or right up on that other paint anymore like I used to, because I don't want to see that fear space. As I'm painting, you may notice that I'm pulling down the paintbrush in the same direction. And the reason I'm doing that is so that when it dries, it doesn't look streaky. If I go in 2 directions, which I'll do in just a minute, you'll see I can make it look like I was saying earlier about carpet. If I tilt this in the light, depending on the direction of the paint, will make this look smoother. And so that is the direction I'm going to take my paintbrush to make sure that I have the smoothest looking layer, even if I'm not adding any additional paint. So no matter which angle I'm looking at this on the wall, it will look super smooth. So while it's still wet, I want to play with that lighting and the direction that I'm painting it to achieve that best look. Now here I've got to be a little more careful. I am going to go right up on the edge of the number 2 tiny little cell that's right there. And even though I'm going in 2 directions with the paintbrush for now, this is just to get the coverage first. I'm going to wipe all this extra paint into my paint pot, clean my brush, and grab that 0 size paintbrush to go in here with the detail. And this will help me get around number 2. Smooth. So now that I hold it up, you can see what I'm talking about in the direction that that's going. It looks strange right there. So without picking up any more paint, I'm going to take my paintbrush, my number 2, and I'm going to pull it down and I'm going to pull it over. I'm going to see which way it needs to go. And it looks like it's going to go in this direction to make that look really smooth. and consistent. Isn't it beautiful? Oh my goodness. I'm obsessed with these metallics right now. Once you've painted with the metallics a little bit, it's very difficult to be inspired to go back to regular paint by number. And I hate to say that because I have a million of them, but anyway. I do want to paint a little bit of one of the solid colors. See about how they cover on the canvas with the gesso. And although that is not a metallic color, I am going to go ahead and stir this paint, making sure the pigments are all stirred and ready to roll. Let me get over here just for a second. Very creamy paint. Very beautiful paint. They've got very nice creamy consistency in their paint. This is a medium to low viscosity paint, which just means it's not a heavy body. It's not as thick as what we normally see, which I really love the consistency of their paint. But now let's see how the coverage is on the canvas. I've tested it on the swatch without gesso, but I want to make sure we're going to get really nice coverage here. I did not cut these apart yet, and I'm going to leave it here. Everybody will panic. It'll be fine. I don't normally set my paint pot on the canvas. I'm doing it for the video, but if you happen to knock over your paint on your canvas at some point, do not panic. Wipe up with a damp cloth or a paper towel while it's still wet. And it is acrylic paint. So the beauty of that is you can paint right back over it and it'll cover it. So as long as you get it while it's not super thick and whatever, and you can wipe it off, as long as you can see your numbers, you can go back and paint over it. And it's not a lost cause. There's a solution for every problem with paint by number. That's why I'm here, is to try to help you with those solutions. Okay, let's go in. Oh, I love the consistency of this paint. Oh, it's beautiful. Oh my God, do y'all see how creamy that is? Oh my gosh, I love it. Wow, what a phenomenal color that is, and what coverage. That's incredible. Absolutely phenomenal, gorgeous. Wow. Okay, can't say wow enough. Let's see how that one did on our swatch, because without gesso, it gave us pretty good coverage. I can still see the paint pot line a little bit, but definitely gave me smoother coverage right there. That's, whoo, God, I love it. I really want to go beside it with that number 2 right there, just to see that beauty of the metallic next to that solid paint. I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do it. I tell you what, I'm going to do it. Why not? I mean, you know, I only have 40 other videos to record, but I just can't help myself. I want to keep painting this one, and I have so many others to do, but this one is just so gorgeous, and these colors are just, can I say it enough? They're just screaming my name. Hello, Melanie. Paint me, paint me, paint me. Yes, that's wet. We're going to stay on this side. Number 0 again. doggy. Now that is some pretty colors right there. Wow. Let's see if you can get the full effect here. Is that beautiful or what? I got a big blob of water right there. Of course I did. Of course I did. While the paint's still wet. Yeah. I'll paint a little bit over that once it's dry, if it affects the paint. But look at that. I went ahead and added, because, you know, I couldn't stop, number 3 with my 5/0 tiny little flat brush right here, because that bright gold is that nice little accent pop. But you guys, like, oh my word. I don't think there's much more for me to say. I think I'm going to let this speak for itself. I'm so obsessed. So obsessed. I know I'm easily obsessed, okay? All right, we don't even need to discuss it. All right? But seriously, you guys, this kit is off the charts. Ideyka has outdone themselves. I'm so thrilled that Wizardi is carrying these metallic kits right now. I could just scream. They have several other designs, and you should see some of the animal ones. They're gorgeous. They have some that I would love to buy, but don't know where I'd put them. But does that ever matter? Like, seriously? Oh my gosh. Oh my God. So anyway, they have some partners to this particular design that I want. Same thing. I mean, these would look amazing in my studio with these colors and things, but oh, I just want to paint them. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I could just donate them to a nursing home, or like after I'm done. I don't know. I just want to paint them. There is so much joy and happiness. Happiness and joy in painting the metallics. Ah! Okay. Sorry. I'm reeling my stuff back in here, y'all. Reeling it back in. In summary, run, don't walk. Over to Wizardi. I'm going to leave you a link below, and this is my affiliate link, just so you know, because I love their products. And when you use my affiliate link, I do make a small commission off of your purchase, and I appreciate it, because that little bit of commission helps offset, you know, the time that it takes me to make the video. So, I mean, and the products that I, you know, have to purchase to make the videos. So it's always appreciated. And I know that you will love, love, love these Ideyka kits. Absolutely love them. In addition, if you ever are looking for any of my favorite companies, whether it be for diamond painting or pay by numbers or even just generic craft companies, I have an entire list compiled for you guys, plus all of my videos and the shopping links and all that from the last year, maybe year and a half, at melanieb.info, which is my link in bio website. And you can go there and get lots of information. There's also the links to where you can connect with me on all of my social media, including my Facebook group and my Patreon. You can also actually subscribe to that little mini website, which means it'll just update you when I add a new video, if I add any information about shopping links or a favorite company, any of that, any updates to that little mini website, you'll get a notification for, which I thought was pretty cool. The link for that will also be in the description below so that you can just click and go. Everything I've shown you today will be in the description box below, because that's just how I do. I want to make sure that you are not having to search for any of the products that I've shared today. I want to make it as easy as possible when you watch my videos. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel while you're here. Hit that notification bell to make sure that you are notified of any videos that I post. Be sure to like, comment, share this video. If you really loved it, hit that super thanks button. I hope you love this kit as much as I do and are super excited about painting with metallics. I appreciate you watching. Thank you all for being here today, and I will see you back soon.